The air inside St. Helena's Hospital buzzed with a sense of urgency, a constant ebb and flow of medical personnel, patients, and visitors. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sterile glow over everything. The hum of machines, the soft clicking of shoes on tile floors, and the distant murmurs of medical staff made for a chaotic atmosphere that was as typical as it was expected. It was the kind of place where lives were saved, but also where darkness could sometimes slip unnoticed, hiding behind the veneer of professionalism. In the middle of it all, Officer Michael Dawson walked calmly, with purpose, through the hospital's bustling hallways. His broad, imposing figure contrasted with the lighter atmosphere of the hospital. He wore the standard police uniform, with a polished badge that gleamed under the artificial lights. Dawson was a man accustomed to uncertainty, but he didn't let it show. His expression was calm, focused. His walk was methodical, and his posture was confident, the way any seasoned officer would move when entering a situation that required a calm mind in the midst of chaos. Beside him was his partner, Zara, a German shepherd whose imposing presence was matched only by the sharpness of her instincts. Zara's movements were smooth, but her eyes were constantly scanning the environment. Her ears flicked back and forth, listening to the faintest sounds that the human ear couldn't catch. Zara had been through many such sweeps in hospitals, schools, and public buildings, and every time her senses worked at full capacity to ensure that no hidden danger went undetected. She had been trained to detect threats long before anyone else noticed them, and today she was more alert than ever. The police department had implemented a routine security sweep after a series of concerning incidents at various locations around the city. But today, there was something different in the air, an undercurrent of tension that Dawson could not ignore. As they walked down the hallway toward the maternity ward, Dawson's hand instinctively reached out to gently pet Zara's head, a gesture of reassurance. Despite his composed demeanor, his mind was turning over the possibility of hidden dangers lurking within the hospital. The routine was simple: check all high-risk areas, ensure everything was in place, and make sure no one was in harm's way. But there was a nagging feeling that this time, things would not go as smoothly. Dawson knew that with Zara by his side, he would be able to handle whatever came their way, but the unease remained. It was something Zara had sensed before him, and her usually calm demeanor had shifted. Sophia Moore was sitting in the waiting area of the maternity ward. Her hands rested on her swollen belly, and her eyes were fixated on the entrance, as if waiting for something or someone to walk through. She was a woman who, by all appearances, should have been filled with the excitement of impending motherhood. At 7 months pregnant, Sophia had every reason to feel hopeful and expectant for the future, but she didn't. Something didn't feel right. She couldn't quite place it, but she had an overwhelming sense of foreboding. The hours spent waiting had not been kind to her nerves. The hospital lobby, despite being full of people, had an eerie emptiness around her. Patients shuffled through the corridors, their faces tense, their movements quick, as if they too could feel the undercurrent of unease that hung in the air. Sophia shifted in her seat, trying to shake off the sensation that something was terribly wrong. The walls of the hospital felt confining, the air thicker than usual, and the thought that she wasn't safe here crept into her mind. As she glanced toward the nurse's desk, she noticed the clock on the wall. It had been well over an hour since her appointment was supposed to begin. She glanced again at the door, her fingers nervously tapping on her stomach, her unease growing. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft shuffle of a nurse walking past. Sophia, quietly. "Excuse me, do you know how much longer the doctor will be? I've been waiting for a while." The nurse paused and glanced over at her. Nurse, glancing at the schedule. "Dr. Wright should be with you shortly, Ms. Moore. We've had a bit of a backlog today, but he'll be with you as soon as possible. You're doing okay though, right?" Sophia offered a tight-lipped smile, nodding, though her stomach churned with unease. Sophia, hesitant. "Yes, just a little anxious, I suppose." The nurse nodded sympathetically and continued, but Sophia's anxiety deepened. Her mind raced with thoughts of what could go wrong. She had heard rumors about the hospital, but dismissed them as gossip. Today, however, those whispers felt all too real, and the walls seemed to close in. Meanwhile, Officer Michael Dawson and Zara continued their patrol, walking in sync. Dawson's pace remained steady, but Zara's behavior had changed. Her movements slowed, and her head turned toward Sophia, her nose twitching as she detected the faint scent of fear from the woman. Zara's eyes locked on Sophia, and without any obvious cue, the canine's body stiffened. Her posture changed alert, as if something had caught her attention. She had been through enough routines with Dawson to know when to react, and this was one of those moments. Her attention was fixated on Sophia, and Dawson could see it in her eyes. There was a deep instinctual wariness radiating from her, something she couldn't easily communicate through her normal behavior. Dawson's hand tightened around Zara's leash. "Officer Dawson," to himself, "what is it, girl? What are you sensing?" Zara's behavior was getting more intense by the second. She started to growl low in her throat, a sound barely audible but deeply unsettling. Her ears were fully alert, and her eyes were locked on Sophia, as if she could sense something about the woman's presence. Dawson's instincts were honed enough to understand that Zara had detected something danger. Perhaps, but it wasn't clear yet. He wasn't going to jump to conclusions, but his suspicions were rising. The officer turned his head slowly toward the doorway, scanning the area for anything unusual. Then, he noticed Dr. Marcus Wright, the head of obstetrics, walking toward Sophia's direction. Dawson's eyes flicked back to Zara. She was now clearly blocking Dr. Wright's path, her body rigid, her hackles slightly raised. Dr. Wright seemed unfazed at first, his usual professional smile in place. But as Zara's stance became more pronounced, a faint flicker of tension crossed his face. He tried to sidestep the dog, but Zara did not budge. "Officer Dawson," firmly. "Dr. Wright, stay back." Dr. Wright paused, momentarily startled by the intervention. He took a step back, his expression changing slightly, though he quickly masked it with a smooth, practiced smile. "Dr. Wright," light chuckle, "seems like your partner's a bit protective." "Today, Officer Dawson." Officer Dawson, calmly. "She's just doing her job, Dr. Wright. I suggest you take a step back." Dr. Wright seemed to hesitate, the tension in the air palpable. Dawson's mind raced, but his demeanor remained professional. Zara's behavior wasn't normal, and he trusted her instincts. There was something about Dr. Wright that didn't sit right with him, and it was more than just a canine's intuition. His years of experience in law enforcement had taught him to listen when something felt off. And right now, everything about this situation screamed that something was dangerously wrong. Zara growled once more, her eyes narrowed as she continued to block Dr. Wright's path. The officer's fingers twitched toward his radio, but he didn't make a move just yet. He was still waiting, observing, watching how things would unfold. As the minutes dragged on, the tension in the air grew thicker. Sophia Moore couldn't quite understand why she felt this way, why her heart was racing, her hands trembling slightly. She had been to the hospital for checkups before, but today, everything felt different. There was an unspoken weight, an inexplicable feeling in the pit of her stomach. She glanced again at Dr. Marcus Wright, who had paused just a few steps away. His smile was still intact, but there was something hollow about it now, something that didn't quite add up. His eyes lingered on her, but it wasn't the caring gaze of a doctor. It was the kind of look that made her skin crawl. It was too deliberate, too cold. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her gaze now locked on Officer Dawson and his dog, Zara. The dog's behavior was not normal. Zara's intense focus, her growl, her refusal to budge, was as though she was guarding her from something unseen, something dangerous. Sophia's intuition screamed that something was wrong, but she couldn't quite place it. She knew she wasn't imagining it. The anxiety in her chest had reached a boiling point. Meanwhile, Officer Dawson observed the growing tension between Dr. Wright and Zara. His instincts were telling him to act, but his experience as a law enforcement officer kept him rooted in the present. There was no immediate danger, at least not that he could see, but Zara's warning, her low growl, was enough to make him second-guess everything. It wasn't often that he saw her behave like this. She had a reputation for being calm under pressure, a reliable canine partner that could sense threats long before they materialized. Dawson took another measured step toward the scene, his hand still gripping Zara's leash, guiding her away from Dr. Wright. But it was clear that Zara wasn't ready to let him go. She was determined, focused. Something about this doctor, his presence, his aura was off, and the dog was picking up on it in ways Dawson couldn't yet comprehend. "Officer Dawson," to Dr. Wright quietly. "I need you to step back, Dr. Wright. Zara doesn't act like this unless there's something you should know." Dr. Wright raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by the officer's stern command. For a moment he seemed to regain his composure. He gave a slight nod, but there was a flicker of frustration in his eyes. Dr. Wright, smiling, though a touch thinly. "Of course, Officer Dawson. No harm done." Sophia shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She watched as Officer Dawson and Dr. Wright exchanged words, her unease growing. Her hands tightened around her belly as she fought the impulse to leave. The sensation that something was wrong weighed heavily on her. Why couldn't she shake the feeling that Dr. Wright was involved in something dark? The smile he wore seemed too practiced, too perfect. His charm felt forced. As she sat there trying to calm her nerves, her gaze flickered back to Zara. The dog's unwavering attention had not shifted from Dr. Wright. It was as though Zara knew something Sophia did not. Her instincts had spoken, and now Dawson was taking the necessary steps to understand why. But the situation wasn't as simple as it seemed. Suddenly, Zara took another step forward, her posture growing even more aggressive. Her growl deepened, an ominous warning rumbling from deep within her chest. Her eyes locked onto Dr. Wright again, and Officer Dawson saw it the unmistakable sign of a threat. His partner's protective instincts were not to be taken lightly. Officer Dawson, firm to Dr. Wright. "Stay back, Dr. Wright. I'm not sure what's going on here, but I need you to step away from her." Dr. Wright, slightly unnerved. "You've got to be kidding me." "Officer Dawson, this is highly unprofessional." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. She had seen it. There was a brief, almost imperceptible moment when Dr. Wright's calm exterior cracked. The hint of impatience, the slight twitch of his eyebrow, his cool demeanor faltered. Sophia couldn't explain why, but she just knew that the doctor's presence was the reason Zara was behaving this way. The dog was sensing something far beyond anyone's sight. "Sophia," fearfully, voice trembling, "I don't feel safe around him. Please. I don't know why, but I don't feel safe." Sophia's admission seemed to hit Dawson like a sudden gust of wind. His eyes flicked toward her, then back to Dr. Wright. For a moment, it was as if time slowed. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fall into place. Something was wrong. There was more to this situation than a simple routine security sweep. Officer Dawson, under his breath to himself, "Something's not right here." Dawson felt the weight of the moment. It wasn't just about the routine sweep anymore. His instincts, Zara's instincts, Sophia's gut feelings, all of them pointed to something far more sinister lurking beneath the surface. "Sophia," her voice barely above a whisper, "he's been staring at me, like he wants something. I can't explain it, but it's not normal." Her words hit Dawson hard. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. This wasn't just about a canine's trained senses. It was about something far more dangerous, something hidden in plain sight. Dr. Wright was a trusted figure in the hospital, a well-respected professional in the community. But there were cracks in his facade, and those cracks were starting to show. Officer Dawson, nodding resolute. "All right, I'm going to need backup. Stay close, Ms. Moore." As Dawson issued the order, he pulled out his radio, calling for assistance. Zara's growl didn't fade. In fact, it grew louder, more insistent, as if she knew what was coming. There was something seriously wrong with Dr. Wright, and it was time to find out exactly what. The atmosphere shifted from tense to chilling. Officer Dawson could feel it deep within, Zara's heightened intensity signaling something dangerous. The dog wasn't just his partner, she was his friend, his confidant. Today, Zara was telling him something important, something dark. The backup team arrived swiftly. Dawson briefed them on the situation, Dr. Wright's strange behavior, Zara's heightened aggression, and Sophia's mounting fear. Officers silently fanned out, observing Dr. Wright closely, waiting for his next move. Dawson knew he had to act fast before the doctor could do any more harm. Sophia, still trembling, stayed seated in the waiting area. Her eyes flicked between Dawson, Zara, and Dr. Wright. The weight of the officer's attention on her, paired with the backup's presence, heightened her vulnerability. She had never imagined a routine checkup could spiral into something so terrifying. Meanwhile, Dr. Wright's impatience was palpable. He wore a strained smile, maintaining the facade of professionalism, but Dawson could see the cracks, the tension in his jaw, the flickering look for an escape. It was too obvious. And then Zara moved again. The dog approached Dr. Wright's desk, moving with precision, her nose sniffing the air. Dawson followed, closely observing. Zara's body stiffened, and she began to nudge open a drawer with her nose. Dawson crouched down, and as the drawer creaked open, he knew they were about to uncover something monumental. Inside the drawer, hidden yet undeniable, was a syringe. The liquid inside was clear, but Dawson didn't need to inspect it further to know it didn't belong in a hospital. His heart raced as he exchanged a glance with Zara, who let out a soft whine as if confirming the discovery. Officer Dawson, quietly to himself, "It's all connected." The syringe was the first crack in Dr. Wright's carefully constructed facade. Dawson stood, his gaze fixed on the vial nestled in the drawer. His fingers trembled slightly as he picked it up, examining the label. The liquid was clear but had a sinister sheen, the unmistakable sign of malpractice substances used to manipulate, harm, and control. Dr. Wright froze. The color drained from his face as the reality of the situation hit him. His mask faltered. Dawson's gaze never wavered. "Officer Dawson," softly. "What is this, Dr. Wright?" The words hung in the air, thick with accusation. Dr. Wright's eyes shifted between the syringe and the officers now surrounding him. His body tensed as he realized there was no escape. His gaze flickered to Sophia, who had just witnessed the entire exchange. Sophia's breath caught in her chest as she saw the syringe. Her fear, which had been gnawing at her for so long, was now confirmed. She had always known something wasn't right, but seeing the syringe, knowing the doctor's secret was exposed, brought both relief and terror. She clutched her stomach, feeling the weight of it all settle heavily within her. For a moment, Dr. Wright seemed to consider his options. Used to controlling situations, he now felt cornered, his mask of professionalism shattered. His eyes darted to the door, calculating an escape route, but it was too late. There was nowhere to run. His carefully crafted life was unraveling, and the truth was undeniable. Dr. Wright, trembling, trying to maintain control. "You don't understand. This isn't what it looks like." Officer Dawson, calm and unwavering. "Don't try to explain, Dr. Wright. We know exactly what it is." Sophia stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong, the instinct to protect her child fully awakened. Sophia Moore, resolute. "I knew something was wrong. You've been hurting us, haven't you? What were you trying to do to my baby?" Her words cut through the air, and for the first time, Dr. Wright looked vulnerable. He opened his mouth, but no words came. The truth was now undeniable, and there was no escape. "Officer Dawson," to the backup officers, "take him into custody. We'll figure out the details at the station." As Dr. Wright was escorted away, Dawson's gaze fell back on Sophia. Her face was pale but filled with relief. The weight of fear was lifting, replaced by hope. Sophia Moore, softly, trembling with emotion. "Thank you for believing me. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been here." Officer Dawson, gently. "You don't have to thank me. You trusted your instincts, and that kept you safe." Zara, Dawson's K9 partner, had played a silent but crucial role. Her early detection of the danger had saved Sophia and her unborn child. Sophia, Moore softly, filled with gratitude. "Zara, she saved my baby." Officer Dawson, proudly, "She's a true hero." As the officers continued their work, Dawson and Zara stayed with Sophia. The unspoken bond between officer and K9 was clear. Together, they had saved a life. For Sophia, it was a new beginning. For Dawson and Zara, it was another day of doing what they do best, protecting the innocent and ensuring justice. The camera pulled back, showing the subdued hospital. The narrator's voice echoed, "In a world full of noise and uncertainty, sometimes the smallest actions make the biggest difference." For Officer Dawson and Zara, it was a job well done, but for Sophia Moore, It was the moment that saved her child's life, and for that, there was no greater reward. As the investigation into Dr. Wright unfolded, the full scale of his actions came to light. His manipulation of women, including Sophia, had been ongoing for months. The syringe found in his office was just the beginning. For Sophia, the trial was both a relief and a moment of reflection. She realized that her instincts had saved her and her baby. In the weeks following the trial, as Dr. Wright faced justice, Sophia was surrounded by support. The uncertainty of her past had been replaced by peace and gratitude. She had survived. Her baby had survived. The unspoken bond between Sophia, Officer Dawson, and Zara remained strong. Zara had sensed the danger long before anyone else, saving their lives. In a world full of uncertainty, loyalty was the one thing Sophia could always count on. For Officer Dawson, the work never truly stopped. There would always be more danger. But today, he and Zara had done something extraordinary. They had saved a life and reaffirmed their purpose. As the sun set, Dawson stood with Zara, watching the horizon. With a soft smile, he spoke to his partner. "Officer Dawson," softly. "Good work, girl, we did it again." Zara's eyes glinted with understanding. In that quiet moment, side by side, they knew they were ready for whatever came next. Together, they could face anything.